Two shots rang out, piercing the calm, dark night. It had been 16 years since a Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper was shot to death in the line of duty. That changed January 6th, 2007 in Tipton County near Memphis. Trooper Calvin Jenks was just 24, a newlywed who had been on the job for 2 years when he made a routine traffic stop. The smell of marijuana wafted from the car window. Before Jenks could even investigate, he was shot in the head. His body tossed to the pavement, then run over as the suspect sped away. Law enforcement swarmed the area as the killer drove right past the flashing lights surrounding the scene. The investigation led detectives on a wild hunt, but a hunch and a memorable art sculpture pointed agents to a hotel where a SWAT operation unfolded in the middle of Nashville. This is Tennessee Murder Trails. Retired TBI agents recounting their cases in an unprecedented look inside high-profile murders in Tennessee. With Joe and Mike's 75 years of combined experience and Emmy-winning journalist Alex, let's solve the murder of Trooper Calvin Jenks.
When your phone rings in the middle of the night, you know nothing good is about to happen.
It's one of those events that historically you absolutely know that this is not good. From what we do for a living as a homicide investigator and a violent crimes investigator, especially in the rural parts of the state, once that phone rings, you're going to be leaving. You're leaving your family, and you're probably going to get to see the sun come up, and you may get to see the sun go down. I've always said that through my years with the TBI as an investigator, nobody kills anybody from 9 to 5. I would say that 70% of our responses to homicides happen late at night or early in the morning. So the phone ringing and rocks you out of a dead sleep. It takes a while to get your faculties and get your focus in play, and I've learned how to do that. I've recognized through the years about how I respond to those calls, because you know that this is not good.
So at 1:30 in the morning, your phone rings on this evening. Who's on the other end of the line?
It was the supervisor from the Nashville TBI headquarters. They had notified me and immediately told me that a trooper was murdered in West Tennessee. Again, when that happens, which is rare, a TBI agent and a lot of times seasoned investigators may work a officer death probably once or twice in their career. So when that happened, you basically get a shot of adrenaline. You know that this is something you need to be focused on. And they had some information that came in, what we call a lead, that there was a possibility that this vehicle was seen in the Dixon, Tennessee area, and they asked me to go see if I could locate that vehicle and verify this information.
So you jump in the car and you head out, and what are you thinking?
Well, you get your mind right, you get focused on where you're going and what you need to do, and you start thinking, do I need to notify other agencies that I'll be basically coming into neighborhoods at 2 in the morning, possibly be out of my vehicle just for officer safety and also to make sure they know what's going on. And I'm not sure at this point if they're even aware that this trooper was murdered in West Tennessee as well.
So do you find the vehicle?
I didn't make it there. And the reason was I made a decision prior to getting to that location that I was to check to go by the Dixon Police Department and meet up with the midnight sergeant. And the whole point in that was to let him know that I would be in this neighborhood. So if they had a call that they're a prowler or a suspicious vehicle, so they would immediately discount it, and it would basically, keep that from happening.
Now, you've told me before that you believe this case was led by divine intervention. So when you got to that police station, what happened?
It's the whole concept of what was special about this case. And how I ended up in the back parking lot of the Dixon Police Department, and the term divine intervention was something that I didn't think about. Of course, as it's going on, it took me a while to understand that this was not a normal investigation. This didn't happen the way that investigations normally go. But what put me in that back parking lot was kind of a unique opportunity, I guess is what it was. I don't know why I did that. Normally, I probably would have just phone called or radioed in to communication, but I took it upon myself for some reason to go and let them know, because I wanted to speak face to face with the sergeant. And as I pulled in the back lot, there was a state trooper car pulled in there, and I was, of course, from my years of working in that area as a TBI agent and a deputy sheriff, I had relationships with troopers and personal relationships, friends. I recognized the number on the patrol car, so I knew who it was. So I get out, and as I'm walking to the back door, and my whole intention was twofold at this point, to offer my condolences, to speak to him, to see if he had any information that I didn't know about, anything that I could do locally. And the other was to notify the police department there that I will be in that area following this lead. And he walks out, and I remember the look on his face as he came out the door. And we stopped within 5 feet of each other. He had 2 prisoners with him. And I immediately told him, I said, Trooper, I said, we're working on your fellow trooper's case, and we're going to do everything we can to solve this case. And he said, I know you will, Joe. He said, there's no doubt in my mind. I know how everything works. And he said, but I need to talk to you if you got just a minute. And I said, sure. And he said, he stepped a little to the side of these 2 prisoners who were handcuffed in custody. And he said, I don't know if they know anything about this murder of Trooper Calvin Jenks. He said, but they were acting funny, and there was certain communication I had with them in the patrol car as we're coming to the police department after I arrested them that gives me pause that there's something that they know. I felt like it wasn't my place to interview them or get into this case. And he said, I'm amazed you're here. He said, this is perfect. Do you mind talking to them? I said, absolutely. I asked the trooper, I said, what'd you arrest these guys for before I interviewed them? Because I wanted to know who I was dealing with. He said, well, they're under arrest for possession of marijuana and driving under the influence. And he said, the basis for me stopping them was I had a car stopped and they didn't move over. And of course, Tennessee has a move over law. To me, what makes this so important was that within a half a mile of this location where they were taken into custody on Interstate 40 going west back toward Memphis, a trooper was run over and killed, which generated our legislature to enact the move over law.
Here in Tennessee, drivers legally must change lanes or slow down when an emergency vehicle is stopped on the highway.
And you can almost see that location from where they were arrested. So I'd look back on that and see there's a connection here that's deeper than just a standard traffic stop and an arrest being made. So I decided what I would do at that point was call another TBI agent.
Why did you decide to call someone else to help you?
I think you look at the circumstances, and I know there wasn't an officer safety issue. These 2 prisoners were secured, and I had a state trooper with me. I thought that it would be best we separate the 2 and do complete separate interviews from each of them where they can't get their story straight, even though you don't know what they've communicated with or what they know. So he arrived fairly quickly. He lived close by. So we separated the 2, and I pulled one aside, the one that I interviewed, and I asked him, I said, look, I said, you know that there's something going on that's probably bigger than why you're in handcuffs right now. He said, yeah, I know. There's no doubt about that. And I said, tell me about anything you know about that. He says, well, he said, I don't know if I do know anything. I really don't. He said, but what I can tell you is we gave a ride to 2 Hispanic males to Nashville, and that's how we ended up here. And I said, tell me about it.
So you don't realize it, but this case is about to blow wide open. You make a call to the command post over in Memphis. What did they tell you?
They told me that they had already uncovered information, that the individuals were on video. They located a convenience store where they had went in. And the whole point was they knew they had to get back to the interstate from the location where Trooper Jenks was shot and killed. So they tracked the convenience stores in that area, and they found them on video. What they were doing was, that is real important, is they were trying to buy Armor All wipes, anything to remove blood, possibly, from their car.
So, Joe, they went to the convenience store. How did they wind up going to Walmart?
When they realized they couldn't buy what they were wanting at that market, they didn't stock wipes, Armor All wipes, disinfectant products. They decided they had to find somewhere to have them. And where else at the middle of the night, early morning hours, but a Walmart.
And you see them on surveillance video. They're shopping around.
Law enforcement, for the most part, across the country knows that Walmart has some of the best quality surveillance video in all the stores. So that's a treasure trove.
At this point, the news had spread. Tell me what evidence was found so quickly at Walmart.
They were able to locate some bullet casings in the parking lot. They found clothing items worn by the shooters. They also found a flashlight in a trash compactor that was taken out of a trash receptacle by the maintenance worker, and they were stopped right before this trash was being compacted to be hauled off.
Like a trooper flashlight? Like as in potentially his flashlight?
I can tell you this. The markings on this flashlight, when it was turned over to the TBI agents, had Tennessee Department of Safety, Tennessee Highway Patrol on this flashlight. So, absolutely, this was related to the murder of Trooper Calvin Jenks. Not only did they dump the flashlight, the clothing items, they also dumped their car too. When they recognized that this trooper had video in his patrol car, and so the maturity of these guys was not at the highest point, or they wouldn't have done what they did. But they also were well aware, cognizant of the point that they could be found. So they had to separate all their identity, anything that they had at that time. So they dumped everything in Brownsville at the Walmart, and they left their car abandoned in an apartment complex.
Is that typical? Do you find evidence so quickly like that?
Very rarely that it happens or that it comes together. And this is something that all of a sudden it's clicking. And once we hear that, and once we get together, we're running leads 200 miles away in Nashville, based also on their leads that they've developed in West Tennessee. Everything starts to click and starts to go fast, and you're lucky if you get it like that.
So all of that is happening over in this scene. You're standing with these other two suspects. Do you just put them in the back of your car, and where'd you go?
It was a lot of decisions had to be made.
Quickly.
The adrenaline from the Memphis information gave me more confidence, gave me more focus, more direction. I understood now what they were dealing with down there. So I knew the importance of these two individuals that I had in front of me could end up tying this all up into a nice, pretty package.
How did you come to realize that there was a connection between the two murder suspects and then these guys?
The trooper told me that while they were in his custody, of course, his radio was relaying information, and they were able to overhear while they sat in his car about the murder of Trooper Jenks in West Tennessee.
24 got you out there, and 25 got you out there also.
And the BOLO, or the All Points Bulletin, looking out for any suspects. So they were listening to this. And finally, one of them mentioned to the trooper before they got to the police department, there may be something that was told to us about this. We don't know if it's true or not, but there's something that we need to let you know about. And they said that they had given a ride to these two Hispanic males. That's pretty much all they told him. And they just said, we don't know if it's related or not.
Joe, wasn't there a comment made while they were on the way to Nashville about all the different trooper cars that were out there pulling people over, and there was a comment about something bad must have happened, and didn't the suspects make a comment of, you don't want to know, or something in that context? Yeah,
they said that as they're driving these individuals to Nashville, it seemed like at every exit ramp on I-40, there was a trooper sitting there with their blue lights on. And one of them made the comment, what is going on? He said, somebody must have done something really, really bad. And at that point, one of the individuals that they were giving a ride to said, yeah, but you don't want to know about it. And I asked him, did you follow up? What did you say next? He said, we didn't want to know about it. And nothing else was said. What he told me, of course, was that they gave him a ride from West Tennessee, from Memphis area to Nashville to a hotel. And so I said, okay, that's pretty good information.
Also, is that suspicious? What do you mean? You just gave these two guys a ride to Nashville?
It would be suspicious, but they laid out the justification for this ride.
Okay.
What they told me was they had met these two individuals once. They came through Memphis and came into this area outside of Memphis called Millington, and went to a business and just flat out came up and asked this one individual if he was interested in buying some marijuana. He said he was. So based on that, a relationship was established. Phone numbers were exchanged. And because of that, who did they call when they needed a ride out of the area They wanted to get as many miles between them and Trooper Jenks as they could. The only people that they knew at that point was the ones that they sold marijuana to the day before. So they made the phone call, and they agreed to drive them to Nashville in exchange for marijuana and gas money. And they were able to separate themselves from all the parts and components that they had involved in the murder of Trooper Jenks.
Yeah, I received a call from Joe sometime in the early morning hours. I came up from a deep sleep and I saw that it was Joe calling, and my first thought was, oh, this is not good. And Joe told me that he needed my help, that there was a trooper that was murdered in West Tennessee, and he had a lead to run. But what was also equally important is he had two suspects or possibly witnesses in his car with him, and he needed some help to have somebody with him, and that they were going to a location in Nashville. I said, all right, where do you want to meet? Well, we met at an exit off I-40. I think we met about 15, 20 minutes later, got my clothes on fast, and met him at a gas station. I could tell when Joe came out of the car and we briefly spoke that this was dire and serious, but also the information that Joe was relayed, this sounded like a really strong lead that possibly, okay, we're on to something.
We had good information, no doubt, but the negative side of this is, where are we going next? And are we going to be able to turn this positive information into more positive information? And
because where did they say they took him in Nashville?
They said they dropped these two suspects off at a hotel or a motel.
All they could tell me was that the hotel that they dropped them off at had green and yellow in the sign, and mainly yellow. And I was like, well, okay, that's 80% of every hotel motel in Nashville, Best Western, Days Inn, Holiday Inn. So I'm immediately thinking, this is not going to be an easy task. So I tried to get more information. That's all they could give me. And to make things worse, you know, these guys are in their mid-30s, late 30s, and they had been to Nashville one time in their life. So we're talking about a needle in a haystack. You know, that's the words that you hear all the time. Well, this absolutely was a needle in the haystack. And the reason was you're relying on two people who cannot give you any major landmarks or identify anything other than the hotel that they took them to had green and yellow in the sign. So I had to make some decisions, or I came up with, where do I start? Where does this go?
I think, and one of the things that Joe decided is, well, let's go to the high crime areas first, where the motels are.
Yep.
That's a lot more our likely choice or chance of these guys identifying.
And you're following behind.
Following behind, hoping that this isn't something that's where they're going to want to escape. But we drove around quite a bit that morning.
And this goes back to your instincts. I had to come to a decision whether I believed these guys or I, quote, trusted them. And trust is so important. And I had to weigh the importance of following this lead. Is it a valuable lead? Is it a hot lead? And in doing so, I have to give some deference to who these people are and give them and put some trust in them. And I had to make that decision. I think that's based on just your communication, your experience, and your interaction. I felt comfortable with them, and the reason being was they were exhausted. I had to keep waking them up. Think about this. They had been up over 24 hours. They had been engaging in illegal drug activity, and they had been driving, and usually in the dark and the nighttime hours, so they're not focused real well. So they're handcuffed. They're in a police car, and unmarked or not, they're in custody. So I had to keep them focused on what we were trying to accomplish. And to be honest with you, I didn't have a lot to work with, and I knew that this was probably the odds of success on this was probably not going to happen, and we would have to go to some sort of plan B.
So you're driving around, I guess, the inner loop.
Mm-hmm.
Are you just randomly exiting and saying, is this it? Is that it?
I thought my best approach was first is go to the high crime area where these hotels were, where I know historically there's a lot of drug activity from living and working in this area. And for some reason I thought, well, maybe my best bet, because one thing that one of them did tell me was there was a lot of people around. So when I heard that, I thought, well, Nashville's a tourist town. I mean, you got a tourist industry that brings in a lot of people, and they're up all hours of the night. So I thought, well, I need to divert and go more toward the inner city rather than the outside of Nashville. And I also thought that it was important for me to show them the skyline, where I make the loop around the skyline. And I felt if they could say, yeah, I do remember that, then I was heading in the right direction.
I feel like anyone that lives in Nashville is like writing down, okay, is it the skyline? Is it Broadway? Mm-hmm. Is it by? So that's basically what you were doing.
That's what I was doing. And I thought that's probably with my best opportunity to try to identify this location.
Did they recognize it?
And I think because of their current condition, they were exhausted. I don't want to overstate this, but I had to continuously get them awake. And finally, I remember specifically as we're going by the skyline, do you remember that? And he said, yeah, I do remember this. I do remember this. So I thought, well, I'm going to circle back because I'm running out of this road per se. So I'm going to circle back and get more information from them. And luckily, at this time of morning, there is nobody out. This is the time in Nashville that probably 90% of commuters, partygoers, people that are out enjoying the city are long gone. So it was easy for me to navigate, but I was running out. I felt like I needed to turn around and go back. So I took the next exit, which, and if you lived in Nashville more than 2 years, you absolutely know where Demonbreun Street is. It's one end of Music Row to the other end of the entertainment district down toward Broadway. So I get off at Demonbreun and I take a right off the ramp. I felt like that would be my best opportunity to turn around and go back on Interstate 40. As I do so, I go all the way up the hill on Division Street, and what is up there? And like I said, if you've been in Nashville more than 2 years, or maybe even less than that, you absolutely know about these statues.
The naked statues.
The naked statues.
There it is. That's what people call them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they're all naked.
And so what I do is I do the loop, I circle the statues, and all of a sudden I hear a voice coming from my back seat. He says, "This is it. I remember those statues." And the other one affirmed it. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Absolutely." So my next thought is, do you see any hotels close by that you recognize? And within a few seconds, one looks over and he says, "That one right over there." There it was. And I said, "Are you sure?" And that's when he says, "That's that son of a bitch that wouldn't let me go to the bathroom." That's the exact words he told me. So I knew then that he not only identified the building, he identified the reception clerk.
Not only did he make contact with the clerk, he must have gone inside, clearly.
They actually went up the room with these two. And the whole point of that was so they could get the marijuana in their deal to drive them from Memphis. So they entered the hotel room. And when they got in there, he tells me he sees a small caliber handgun laying on top of the TV. And he gives me a layout of the room, what it looked like. And so I thought, well, what better to confirm this? But I said, I will go out to the car and I tell Mike, I said, "Mike, I'm taking him in. I want him to take me to the room, show me the floor, show me the room that we know exactly they're in." And I take him up the stairs and he points out room 225 and 226. So I return back downstairs, take him back, secure him in the car, and I go to Mike comes in with me. At that point, we had another agent there watching him. And so I tell the clerk, I said, "Who's in room 225 and 226? And he gives me two Hispanic names. I said, "Are they here now?" He said, "You just missed them."
When the desk clerk said that you had just missed them, it wasn't that they had left, they had just returned.
They came back with fast food, absolutely. They were in the building.
If you just missed them, that means that you could have potentially walked by them in the parking lot.
I didn't look at it that way. I was more or less focused on what we had to do next. He said they came in with fast food. And I said, "Okay, so how did they get out?" He said they called a cab. A cab just dropped them off. So they were eating. Not only did we have them back located in the hotel that we wanted, but the worst part of this is it's almost 4:30 or 5 in the morning. That means they're awake. They're not asleep. So we have to risk our element of surprise is going to be taken away. So strategically, we had to covertly bring in resources so they wouldn't be aware of it.
So do you just start making phone calls?
Well, at this point, yeah, it's just three of us. So we discussed it, and I decided, talking with the clerk, he had an empty room, and he gave me the key. I was able to get up and get in position to where I could keep my eye on the door, because we didn't know whether these guys were still awake, if they're watching us, but we knew we had to keep them contained at that point.
Next time on Tennessee Murder Trails.
One of the things we're concerned about is everybody else on that floor. On the second floor, we're going to have to extract or get everybody off the floor quietly. And once our SWAT team members get here, they methodically and quietly attached explosives to the door.
What is your heart like as that door starts to open? I mean, that's a moment. These two individuals just killed a trooper.
If there was any way that there was some divine intervention, and we talk about this, it was absolutely possible, and it was present with Calvin.